space, isn't it? Okay. So, before I get to the hard-hitting journalism, just going to fanboy on you guys for a minute. I am in love with True Cult. It's amazing. When Laura, the PR lady, was like, "Do you need PDFs of the book?" I was like, "Oh no, I bought it at the comic store as it came out, and I read them, and I love it. And I'm telling people at my comic store how good it is. So
thank you so much.
Really well done. So let's start, just for the article's sake, if you can just give us a quick synopsis of what the book is about for people who haven't read it yet.
It's a fast food crime book. It's about three people who work at a fast food restaurant who pull off a stupendous heist and end up on the wrong side of a satanic cult.
Satanic panic with a side of fries.
Yeah, right.
And it not hopefully not the satanic cult part as much, but the fast food part seems so accurate. Do you guys? I mean, did you draw from your own lives on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I put in time in the trenches at McDonald's when I was 15 or 16 for a minute, and I remember very specifically, I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. I didn't know I was going to be a writer. I don't think it was anything I even thought about, but I remember really specifically being there one day and going, just remember all of this. This is fucking insane. Just remember everything.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I remember I started committing everything to memory. It was long before having smartphones, having a camera in your pocket, right? Like I remember the toaster, the bun toaster, like exactly how it works and what it looks like and the contours of it. None of that's in like visual stuff is in the book, but all of the verbiage and the priorities and the just weirdness of that environment, that's all from real life.
Right.
And Liana too put in some time as
I was a sandwich artist.
Oh, a sandwich artist. All right.
I worked for a couple other small food service industries, like in the mall, food court, and stuff like that too at the time. And I mean, I didn't try to commit it to memory. I think it was just extremely traumatic for me. So I remembered
That's the other way to do
everything.
it.
So,
Right.
I've been proposed to in the middle of a back kitchen at Subway. I mean, it was a real marriage proposal, and I just, you can't really make that shit up. Like, I don't,
right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. Oh, it's crazy.
Did you accept?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No
I
way.
think that was an important follow-up.
Yeah, I feel like I would have definitely led with, and my
We're still happily married.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny. Oh my god, I think this would have gone a lot differently if I accepted. Yeah.
Right. So IDW is making a big push for original books, and you guys come in with this thing that you've written mainstream, you've drawn Star Wars and all these things, and so what sort of led you to be like, hey, fast food cult comedy action thing, here we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think creator-owned comics are super important for a lot of reasons. One is that's where the really fresh ideas are going to come from, but just strictly from the feasibility of being a working comics writer or artist or colorist or whatever, from the financial side of it, having something you own is huge. So I think that's a lot of where the impetus to come out. And I mean, I think we're also super creative people anyways. We're always thinking of story ideas.
Yeah.
But I specifically I love crime fiction. I love crime movies. I love true crime. And, I always have a bunch of crime ideas. And I'd kind of been working on this idea about a fast food heist. Because I was trying to think, I wanted to do a book with a real stupendous heist in it. But, I realized I couldn't really outdo the ones that have already been done because they're really good and they require a lot of research. And I was, kind of lazy, and I was like, well, what, I wanted to do something different. And we had done, Liana and I had done a story together, and we wanted to keep, in an anthology, we wanted to keep working. And one day we were talking on the phone, and Liana said, I always wanted to do a heist book. I love Ocean's 11. And I was like, well, look in your inbox, right? So that's where we started talking about it, yeah.
Yeah. And, from the perspective of being a comic collector myself, not to say, I'm not a superhero comic person. I superhero comics, but that's just like not the relatability that I like to spend my time reading.
Sure.
And so finding indie comics that have these very bizarre, interesting stories that aren't, you know, fantastical or like whatever, and they're just like real, almost kind of, I mean, obviously we have the supernatural element to our series, but I mean, to have like a real aspect, I love character development and I love character-driven stories.
Right.
And I think that, one, IDW, I feel like that's a great publisher to do that with.
Yeah.
And two, because we've been wanting to work together for a while, and him, you know, being like, oh yeah, I got something immediately. When he told me it was fast food, I was like, how has that not been done before? Because I can't think of anything that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of obsessed with fast food.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by it in a lot of respects, and if I go to like a new city, I'm always like, ooh, what does the weird chain fast food place have here that I've never seen?
Right,
like, what do they have? You know, I'm always like super interested in that kind of thing. And you know, it's fucking good, right? It's supposed to be. It's full of fucking salt and preservatives. It's supposed, like, it's engineered to be really good. I love it, you know. And so I was like, yeah, you know, fuck it, man. Like, let's just do it. You know, like it makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
What's your favorite fast food?
Favorite fast food? It's probably be like Five Guys or something, Shake Shack or something like that. You know, like kind of mid-tier fast food. If we're going old school, true definition fast food, I mean, I probably Wendy's.
Okay. What about you?
Mine is McDonald's, or I don't know if this is considered fast food, but I like Jimmy John's.
Okay. Yeah.
I think just because like now that I know that I can't really eat fast food on a regular basis, and like I have found the quick and easy solution that is like slightly delicious, just because I can never eat at a Subway ever again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Ever. But McDonald's, when it's fresh, is by far unmatched.
When it doesn't suck, it's good.
Yeah.
When it hasn't been the laziest, like sitting on a fucking thing for an hour, it's good. Yeah.
Well,
those were all the wrong answers, just so you know. Taco Bell is the only correct answer.
Oh, okay.
Taco Bell's pretty good too.
Taco Bell is fast food because that is the only fast food I eat regularly.
I may be slightly obsessed with it. So I'm just kidding.
The Doritos Locos Tacos is
absolutely
the absolute best. You've never had them?
I've never had them.
Oh, man.
I don't have a Taco Bell near me, so I don't know.
I couldn't live in a place that never.
They're actually building one like a few blocks from me, so when it opens, I'll go.
Oh, yeah, you should. Baby and Lele, who did our issue 1 variant cover, is a good buddy of mine, and their drink of choice is Baja Blast. And I was like, you know, when that came out, I remember walking into the Taco Bell on the day of being like, I gotta try this, right? It's by far probably one of the grossest like sodas, but it's so delicious. Yeah. And so no matter what, I don't drink soda at all, but I always make an exception for a child-sized Baja Blast.
Child-sized Baja Blast.
So, Liana, I love your artwork on this series. I think it's amazing. What are the challenges now I know obviously as the series goes on, more stuff happens, but in the first issue especially, what are the challenges in taking this sort of fast food world, this sort of everyday world, and making it visually interesting to the reader?
Well, one, the accuracy was like kind of important to me, but also I didn't want to be like, I wanted it to look like you had no idea what era this was from, and so like I tried to be very minimal on the machines that I drew, or like, you know, I wanted it to look like you're either walking into this burger lord that is current day, but they just haven't updated the interiors, you know, as most don't get remodels, or I think weirdly, like I was so hyper conscious of being consistent with like the uniforms and stuff like that, even though I designed them extremely simple, so I could remember and like obviously draw it a lot, but two, to like make it recognizable because it's just the slightest silhouette that I have to remember, and so I think that was a big challenge. I mean, but honestly, it's like remembering to put all the items that belong in a fast food restaurant. So like, oh, I can't forget the trash can. Oh, I can't forget, you know, the hallway that goes to the bathroom. Oh, I can't forget, you know. And so
the uniforms too, right? Where that a little bit like
So forgive me, I'm terrible at remembering characters' names, so please don't take this personally. The character, the girl who is just obsessed with the Burger Lord.
Allison.
And thank you. And she's, even when they're getting kidnapped, she's quoting regulations and telling is that based on a real person? I mean, that's just a fantasy. Like, she's such an interesting character. I don't know what to make of her yet. I'm waiting to see. I don't. Is there more to her? Like,
there's a lot more. There's a lot more to her. Yeah.
Okay.
It gets revealed. Her character arc is a long one.
All right.
There's a lot more to be revealed. I needed a counterpoint to Marty,
right?
Who is freaking out, kind of dumb, and way over his head. And I just thought, for comedy's sake, someone who's completely oblivious and doesn't stop talking would be a real good counterpoint to him.
Right.
And that's sort of where that came from. Although there is a lot more to her, because that you can't really have that one note. They all have a little more dimension than you think, and as the series goes, you're like, oh, all right, or hopefully you do,
Right.
So yeah, that's where she came from. It wasn't based on anybody real. I like writing dialogue, and to me, having an excuse to just write a lot of just kind of chatter, even though there's some meaning to it all. To me, it was the right move, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's reassuring to know that. I think that'd be scary if she was based on somebody real. I'm curious about the influences for the book. Like, I think when you look at it, it's easy to sort of point to like a Tarantino type of feel, but I feel like there's also an equal amount of like Kevin Smith type stuff in there. Are there other writers or filmmakers or creative people who have inspired you in terms of this book specifically?
This book specifically, no. I'm like a vacuum though. Like, I take a little bit from everything I read, and everything I read, everything I watch, I get a little bit out of it. There's the comics writers I really look up to. I take little pieces from them. The prose writers I really look up to, I take little bits from them. Maybe some of the dialogue stuff is from. Tarantino's a good counterpoint, a lot of film dialogue, I would say. The dialogue I intentionally set out to make it very filmic, and we talked about that a lot as making this feel very cinematic in a way. So that was. I would say that. I don't know if there's nobody who specifically like I took something from here, but it was. It's a culmination of like everything, and then I toss out all the stuff that isn't useful here because I'm going to use that somewhere else later.
I think it has all the good points of like Soderbergh and like Coen Brothers, or at least that's the vibe that I was like feeding off of when I was working on it, and like definitely Tarantino dialogue for sure.
I definitely said we want a lot of like.
Length.
Yeah, right. And we wanted a lot of things in the book that seemed like they didn't really have to be there for the story.
Right.
So there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of times that people are telling a story and you're like, why is this person telling this story? I don't understand what this is about, right? Or things happen in the background, or there's little things happening throughout. It all means something, and it all tells part of the story. And I think when you reread it, a lot, like you know the story, now you go back and reread it, a lot of that really starts falling into place, like that second sort of read. So that was something intentionally when we went in. I was like, I want to just kind of have a lot of stuff here that even if it doesn't directly have to do with moving the plot forward, the reader will find it interesting and enjoyable. And that's kind of the same way as real life too, right? It isn't just going to point A to B to C to D. There's a lot of little things that happen along the way, right? You start telling somebody a story, and then you get interrupted because you see somebody you know. And then 4 hours later, you realize you never finished telling the story. And you go, oh, hey, remember earlier I was telling you this? What happened? So there's a lot of things like that, and I think that intentionally kind of broken up storytelling was something that it's fairly linear. There's a handful of very small flashbacks, but it's linear. But it does have that jarring feeling because you get a lot of things talking about things you didn't see or things that happened before, or telling a story. A lot of that sort of disruption was super intentional.
And refresh my memory, is it limited series or ongoing series?
5 issues.
5 issues, that's what I thought. Are there plans to do more if it warrants it, or is it a pretty finite story?
Well, yeah, it's finite. We could always do more.
Right.
But it's pretty finite. We really wanted to just load this up, right, as much as we could with every detail we could think of to build this world. when it ends, right? Like it ends in a place. Yeah, you could do more.
Right.
And there's definitely things you could do in terms of a prequel. I don't know if we'll do it. I want it to stand on its own.
Sure.
You know, but if people like love it, right? And if we feel like there's more stories to tell, but I think our intention was really like, we're going to do this book our way. We're going to tell the story we want to tell, and we're not going to give any concessions to anybody.
Right.
And that's what we did.
Right.
And it worked out for us.
Yeah. I definitely feel like mentally in my head, like all these characters have like interesting stories, you know, to back them up that Scott could absolutely write the shit out of. So I'd be happy if it was warranted and if fans were like, we need this, and you know, we were asked by IDW to do it, I would be thrilled. You know, like who wouldn't want to draw that book again? I certainly would love to, but you know. But I think this arc specifically and this story by itself is very contained.
Yeah.
Great.
So.
And then finally, are you guys working on things beyond this? What can you tell fans, you know, that you have coming out after this? Anything specific? Or
I'm working on a boom book right now called Know Your Station. It's written by Sarah Haley. Phenomenal idea. It's very much like horror in space, like murdering billionaires in space, which is
cool.
You know, really fun. And Scott and I are working on another thing again, which we cannot talk about.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
I get that.
But we're excited to work together again.
Yeah, no, I assume as long as I can write, as long as Liana can draw,
Oh yeah.
we will keep making comics
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, I have a bunch of. I have I have 3 unannounced creator-owned books, an unannounced graphic novel, 2 unannounced graphic novels. But the next thing up is next month. I have a story in the DC Holiday Special, another Batman story,
Right.
with Skylar Patridge that is going to be pretty great, I think, because her art is no joke.
That's my boy.
And I have 2 more Savage Tales, a Vampirella and a Draculina story, and the Savage Tales Winter Special, which I think is out in December.
Great.